Hey guys, it's Syama here, CEO of Scaling Retail, and I'm excited to be back with our one-on-one consultation. So those of you guys who haven't seen these before, in essence, what we do is we have an amazing brand that wants to get a little live one-on-one time as we kind of go over their business models and answer questions and things like that. So it's kind of a fun thing that we've been doing here the last few weeks. So if you guys are interested in joining the one-on-one, please make sure you send us an email to hello@scalingretail.com and let us know. Otherwise, I am going to be pulling up Divine Beauty, and we are going to have an interesting conversation about about travel cases and about the beauty industry and hopefully interesting things about marketing. So let me see if I can grab Divine Beauty Luxe. And darling, if you can just request yourself to join, let me see if I can. Here we go. I got it. All right, wait for it, guys. Hey, how's it
Hello.
going?
Very good. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Welcome. How was your week?
It's been good. It's been good.
Yeah.
Nice, steady week, steady progress. So everything's going well.
Oh,
How
that's
about you?
fantastic. Thanks for joining us today. It's always fun to get a chance to meet new business owners and get to hear more about what's going on in your world. I've got your website all pulled up and I'm super excited to have you jump into what's going on with your business. But for everyone who's tuning in and for our audience, can you give us a little backstory on what's going on with your brand and tell us a little bit about you?
Yes, I created this designer kind of all leather luxury. I feel like it's luxury anyway. It's all leather makeup case that has compartments. It's very functional. It's durable. It was designed with the intent to last for years, if not generations. I mean,
Mm.
it was there was nothing that was spared in it as far as quality goes. Quality was everywhere throughout the case. And we launched the website in January. I met with some local production promotional people that do, kind of online Google ads and
Mhm.
different Instagram and stuff. So we got our Instagram page and stuff. And then in March, we were ready to go live, and then we got closed down. So it's just kind of like put everything on pause for the moment because I just feel like there was a lot of uncertainty
Got it.
in the economy and the people and everywhere. So I was just like, let's put it on pause, wait and see what we need to do, what we can do, and go from there.
Got it. So
So
Dita,
I'm
tell
this
us, like,
lasted.
yeah, like in this moment, unfortunately, we've got a good 25 minutes here to kind of plow through some business stuff. So, what are some of the most important things that you would like for us to kind of unpack and kind of get covered today?
Well, I would like to know your, like, what would be the next right move, the next right
Mm.
step? Any
Oh,
improvements that can be made? What suggestions you can provide? Any
sure,
context or,
sure.
context you know of people that this might be a good fit with for their customer base or for them in general or,
Got
you
it.
know,
Okay. So, in terms of marketing, what are you doing for marketing right now?
well, at this moment, we're not doing anything other than we have the website open and going and a very minuscule Instagram page and Facebook page because we haven't really generated a lot of ads or try to stimulate that or grow it at this point.
Mm.
So, and I'm really not, I get feedback, I get mixed feedback from people whether we should be going
Mhm.
that route or not be going that route. So I
Sure.
just really am uncertain as to what we should do at
How
this point.
about like press or anything to kind of do gifting or like what have you been doing to try to get the product into as many people's hands as possible?
I have donated to a local charity in our community. I'm in the Midwest. I'm not sure that this is really a bag that is really designed for the Midwest. I feel
Got it.
like it's more of a coastal kind of thing. People that own
Mm.
multiple homes like to travel. But I have done some donating there and gotten written up about that. But
Okay, cool. So, right now, you mentioned a little bit, so we'll kind of talk more about marketing. I will touch briefly on like wholesale and distribution. So, you
okay.
know, right now it's going to be tough to get picked up with like wholesale accounts for purchasing product. So do you currently have inventory on hand with your items?
Yes, I do.
Okay. How many units in general do you have on hand?
We have 50 units. So I
Okay.
do small
Much.
quantities just to get it, to figure out the game plan and to get it
Got
tested, go from there.
Got it. And what's your lead time to production? How long does it take for you to produce?
Well, initially it took us over a year, but I feel like everything is in place now. The forms are made. It would be much quicker. I already have all my contacts, so it would be a faster lead time. I feel like probably 6 months.
Okay, so 6 months to produce a new batch of goods. And from a so that's a long time, right? So 6 months is kind of a long time. So what I would do, with only 50 units on hand, which isn't a lot, right? So when we're thinking about how you can push out product, there are a number of different ways in which you can get in front of your customer. I would say in the launch period, like in this phase, the most important thing is brand awareness. It's more important than actually converting sales. And the reason why is because you're trying to build up something called traction and social capital. So in the beginning phase, it's really about investing into your brand awareness and into getting people to know who you are. I normally tell people it takes about 18 to 24 months before you'll start to see a good ROI on the traction of your business. So
Okay.
as far as looking at your like projections and sales flow and capital, like unfortunately, unless you like hit a product on the nail and it's the right price and it's like, and it's kind of like a mass market product, or in this case, maybe PPE or something where it's like people need it, it will take some time to kind of build up your audience and to build up that volume. So what I would actually suggest doing is kind of changing how you look at your KPIs and your metrics. And I would prefer for these next 18 months as you're experimenting and playing with things, to actually kind of take a step back and say, how am I going to build this brand awareness? Like, what are all the different places in which I want to get featured, written up about? I want these influencers or celebrities to wear my product, right? Like I want to be. It's really about building that groundswell of how people see you, right? Because when it comes to wholesale, I've been speaking to buyers a lot lately, and a lot of them are saying we want to buy into brands that have a following. We want to buy into brands that are actually going to bring people into our stores. So they're almost looking at your branding and they're looking at how you're positioned as almost like if you have strong brand capital and people know your brand, you are more likely going to get picked up with a wholesale order. Does that follow?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these next kind of 18 months, what I would do is you're looking at your P&L would be to kind of put aside, projection wise, put aside more capital towards marketing. And do you know what your margins are right now on your product? Like the approximate percentage or how big the margins are?
I tried to price it. It really should be priced around 1,200 to be in true retail fashion, um, for retail wholesale kind of structure. So I priced a little bit below that because I felt like that would be more of a better price point for it. So
Okay. So I think that, if from a margin standpoint, you probably want to make sure that your bag is kind of priced appropriately in the market, right? And kind of making sure that you have the right margins. I would also suggest, with a luxury brand, I would very much suggest that you look at kind of a rebrand of your DNA, right? So like the concept of like divine beauty, I think is great as like a tagline, but I feel like with a luxury brand, your aesthetics, your photography, your branding, in my mind, needs to be way more luxury in terms of how we're presenting it. So when someone comes to your site and they see a bag, so for example, I'm looking at it's 975. It's the split one. It's metallic and black, and I'm seeing some wrinkles in the leather. you know? So like like those haven't been photoshopped out. It looks like the bag hasn't been stuffed kind of to all of its corners. Like I would almost look at how luxury brands are photographing their handbags, and I would
Okay.
really try to position your brand in a much more aspirational way. I'd also relook at your typography. Um, so like the fonts that you're using, to me, the site feels very like direct to consumer and like a much lower price point. And I think that with the details and the price points and kind of that luxury component you're going after, you're going to really need to up the ante on making it look like a luxury brand. And luckily, there is a luxury market right now. So when people are looking at like how money is being spent, I think it was just last month, it was like, I want to say it was like, gosh, was it Hermes or one of the luxury companies reported like a $40 million month in like Shanghai, which was like the highest they had ever seen like for the year. It was something crazy. So, you know, like there is a strong kind of luxury market spend, especially now with the stock market being more volatile. People are looking to park money in things that feel more tangible, that they appreciate. You know, quality and luxury is always, I think, is always a great thing. The other thing is, yeah, I mean, I would say kind of an identification of what your brand DNA is. So basically, like, how do you position the brand in the market? Then from there, I would take a look at maybe renaming and using Divine Beauty as like, again, a tagline. Like, I think it's a beautiful concept, but I almost feel like it needs to be like Dita Divine Beauty, right? Or something that feels like it's personal and elevated, and that there's that kind of thought and care put into it. So I think that would be important. And then once you kind of rebrand, um, I would then say going through. So when we work with clients, it's like, you know, we kind of trifecta this launch. It's like, all right, we want to make sure we've got the right PR, who's getting us in front of the right gifting and also the right outlets. Like your brand needs to be written up in like Vogue, right? Your brand needs to be written up in maybe Town and Country. You know, like there needs to be some brand awareness, like very specific in your niche. Like maybe even uh, you know, or maybe even looking at like Departures magazine, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like I think that like as we look at kind of positioning the brand, we need to put together like what are the ideal outlets you need to be featured in, what are the ideal, like what's the photography cadence. Like images are going to be everything to that, especially because like think of it like this, like when you see a Louis Vuitton campaign for their like monogram bag, like that monogram bag basically stays the same like every season. Like maybe they
Mm-hmm.
have like some new upgrade, but it's basically the fucking same thing, and then it's just a new photo shoot. It's like all these different photo shoots to make this thing look new and special and to bring heritage into it. And so I would even say, kind of taking a similar look, like, what are the ways in which we can do photography, and what are the ways in which we can kind of build this up? Like, this needs to be built up in a way that's more like aspirational, you know, where someone goes onto the site, falls in love with the bag, and then says like, "Oh, cool, you know, that price point makes sense to me." You know, like the price point has to make sense. In this particular case, when I look at your site, it doesn't make sense. So I think we need to kind of upshift there. But then we need to focus on public relations, and then you're going to have a different kind of advertising strategy because of your price points. You're not going to just convert somebody who comes to your site once. You know, it's like to
Right.
something that's luxury, it takes time. So you're looking at a different kind of entryway into the market, right? You might be looking at working with some influencers more, right? You might be looking at kind of where can I have the best, most credible touch points to add to my pillars, and then once you start driving traffic to your site, you're then going to start to do retargeting ads. So for a luxury brand, retargeting ads are really good. And then also for a luxury brand, looking at banner ads on like, you know, let's say you took out a banner ad on New York Times, right? Or a banner ad, T Style, right? And those are the kinds of, it's way more about playing Jenga with like all the pieces and kind of
Uh-huh.
building it to be your particular set of things. But I think because you have a luxury product and because I imagine it wasn't cheap to produce and
Oh,
yeah, it wasn't cheap. I'm going to say before you kind of run full steam ahead with trying to sell what you've got, I would suggest repositioning what you've got so that you have a much better chance of success when you launch it.
okay. So do you have any suggestions as far as like when you're saying the website, the quality of photos, what would be a good reference point for me
I
to?
would say, when we're working with clients, we build out something for them called a brand DNA. And I would say for you, if you were to start to like source this on your own, I would start to look at luxury, like websites with like that sell luxury handbags. Like I would take a look and say, like, how does Valextra sell a handbag? Right? Like how
Huh?
that, and Valextra is like, you know, understated. No one, I mean, if you know who they are, you know who they are, but most a lot of people don't, right? But they have this like very precious way of showing their product, right? And so the idea here is to kind of show the preciousness of what you're doing. If you have artisans who are working on your product, or if there's anything that's like um, special, like all of your interior, your features here, I think need to be almost illustrated, like on a graphic so people can see like, oh, tweezerman and these things, like there are all these benefits and features of your product that I don't think are being very well illustrated in its current kind of presentation.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But I would start by looking at photography. I think that's going to help you a lot, and then you can kind of start to you can start to rethink the user experience, right? Kind of who the customer is, and then also in terms of like gifting and getting people to buy the product and getting them to use it, and kind of hearing almost like taking your product on the road. Like I'd love to see eventually customer photography, on how they are carrying their um like how they're it's like in their car and there's a photo, like I want to see it in lifestyle, like it's a
Gotcha.
precious
Mhm.
product, but I also want to see it like I want to see someone using it. Like I'd love to see it filled with someone's makeup, and like almost doing like what's in your case kind of thing, and
Uh,
kind of
yeah.
gifting to a blogger and having her fill it up with all of her makeup and her stuff, and maybe it's like a travel story. Where is she going? What's in her dita, like it's like I would kind of think of it in terms of like campaigns, right? And how do you make this so much more exciting than what it is?
Okay. Okay. That sounds interesting. Um,
It's a long
so
way
the
to go. That's kind of like a
yeah,
big
it is. It's like the rebranding,
don't
um,
hate me. I'm like,
no, 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 no. It's all
here's
good.
the 30,000 feet. Here's the
Yes,
direction we need to
yes.
head into. But that's the direction I would go to. And then I'd say, again, first steps first would be like, product photography, like there's no point in pushing it out right now when I don't think you're going to get the maximum conversions.
Gotcha. Okay. And you were
So
saying, referencing font style, what would be a good font as you
well,
were?
so that kind of comes together, right? So normally when you do, so like I'll give you an example. Like when we do a brand DNA, at the end we do like a logo audit, and then we'll take a look and say, based on the consumer market index and where we think this brand should be, here are the treatments or the ideas that we think follow. Then from there, you kind of start to explore like what are the different options with fonts, what are the different options for iconography. So there are a lot of options. Like
Okay,
you have
yeah.
um, but what I would say is kind of play, do a few different combinations of things before you land on something, because it's not going to be the built-in template. Like the website right now feels very templatized, and it's going to need to have some custom coding in it or some components to kind of make it feel a bit more high touch. Because if I'm going to spend $1,000 on something, I need to see and feel that you've also invested in that customer relationship, right? Like what makes it worth me spending $1,000. So yeah, I think that there's some changes, some tweaks you can make. Luckily, I think you are, kind of in the right time period, given that things are still relatively shut down for the time period. There's no rush to get a travel product out to market in this moment. So I think you're really lucky with that. I would suggest kind of taking these next 4 months until the end of the year and like honing in on brand positioning, strategy, website, kind of get it all buttoned up. And then what I'd probably do then is like retain PR in like January and basically push for like a bigger March launch. Like I would be like, March is the time. And I would do everything kind of based on that. That gives you about, what is it, like 4 7 months,
Yeah.
to kind of like really get this going. And I think if you can execute in that way, I think you'll be in a really good position. And I would say that you will probably need to own more units. So like 50 units is not going to be enough. So I'd also suggest probably placing in another buy for maybe another 50 units, 50 to 100 units, so that you would have those in time for March. I do think you're going to want to have more product than less.
What'd you think of the product overall, based on what you could see? I know you couldn't touch it, feel it,
Yeah, it's hard
and
to
the
tell.
heft of it.
I'm very interested in the quality. So like, I'm very interested. For me, the photographs don't do it justice. So like it's for me the photographs make it look like a less expensive product. So I would say like I like the idea, but I wouldn't spend $1,000 on it because it's not branded or photographed in a way that entices me to do that. But I think the concept is really interesting. And I think the notion of like, creating a brand that is kind of based on luxury travel products, I think is a really interesting direction. And I would say you can start with this travel beauty box, but I would actually almost think about expanding the range and almost having it be like 3 to 5 different kinds of products, right? So it's almost like you have your entire travel assortment with you, because with this, you would still buy different branded travel stuff, right? So I would say in terms of future product development, I think you have an opportunity. But in terms of like how the brand is currently being featured, I'd say you're probably not doing it justice. Like I'm looking at the inner patent leather and it's really wrinkled at the bottom, like it kind of has like some wrinkling. That to me should have been photoshopped, right? Like it needed to be like clean and it needs to look like everything needs to look perfect. And like when the bag is open, it kind of loses its shape a little bit, like I would try to find ways of like, how can we kind of hold the shape of this bag so it kind of feels a little bit more formed. So I think that, aside from those are kind of the biggest call outs are like the branding, the photography. I think the product idea is very cool. And I think, again, I think there's definitely a market for like a luxury travel brand. But I'd want to expand the assortment.
All right. All right.
Amazing.
Oh,
All right.
I appreciate
Anything else?
I appreciate all your information and your feedback.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think you're heading in the right direction. I mean, congratulations. I know it's not easy, and I know it's oftentimes disappointing to be like, shit, I have to like redo this, or I have to, fix this and whatnot. But I would say, doing the things you need to do right in the beginning is really going to help save you time and money later. So I would, encourage you to take the time to kind of get this in the right spot so that when you do decide to spend money on gifting and advertising and all of that, you've got a brand that is going to convert, in a much easier way.
Right, right. Well, that's the name of the game. I would like to expand upon it.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing. Keep me posted on how things go, Dita, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.